This is me giving a rapid response to Rapid TV. Uh-huh, uh-huh.
All right, welcome back and thanks for staying with us. It's still Rapid Dawn right here on Rapid TV, and my name is Martha Alu. Right at 9 o'clock, of course, I'm never alone as always. My guy is here with me.
Of course, my name is Victor Arke. Welcome to the 9 o'clock hour of the conversation, where we're going to talk about some of the things that really matters to us as well in the society. Again, thank you, Emmanuel and Eva, for the sports updates.
All right, thank you so much for that. Now, we've had conversations, around RMFC, and that's the Resource Mobilization and Allocation and Fiscal Commission, recently described the current salaries of political office holders as unrealistic and inadequate.
Yeah.
And ever since he made that revelation online saying it's time to review the salaries of these political office holders, Nigerians online and everywhere have literally gone haywire, talking about how the economic realities in Nigeria and the salaries that most Nigerians earn is not correlating.
It's also inadequate.
It's also inadequate. It's also improper. But singling out political office holders who, alongside their salaries, have other primary benefits, primary and secondary benefits, is not the right thing to do, especially at this point where Nigeria is currently grappling with certain harsh realities in the economic climb. We also did see ADC, and members of the ADC come out to criticize that, saying this is not a conversation that you should prioritize right now. There are many other things that should be done, and many other things that can be done to improve the lives of Nigerians, as this is your primary responsibility.
Of course. Now, if you look at it as well, 70,000 naira is still the minimum wage for Nigerians. One would have thought that, due to the fact that Nigerians are feeling the brunt of this whole situation, right? More Nigerians are than the political holders, office holders rather. They should have looked at a way to say, maybe increase the minimum wage again, or find other ways to cushion the effects that that Nigerians are feeling right now due to the economic hardship going on in the country, and not the chairman of the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission was coming to say that, hey, it is time for the increase of salaries of political office holders, because according to them, the last time they reviewed it was in 2008, and this is 2025. Right, the president earns 1.5 million naira according to what they're saying to us,
monthly,
and the ministers earns around 1 million and below that. But again, beyond their salaries, there are benefits that these office holders have. Which of course, if you do all of the calculation, it is possible that these guys go home with a whole lot of money. It is said that the Nigerian senators are one of the most paid senators in the world. Right? And that argument has been there for quite some time.
Yeah.
So I think this is not a good time at all for salary reviews for political office holders, especially because they keep telling Nigerians to be patient, right? So if you're telling Nigerians to be patient, if you're asking us to manage, if you're asking us to have hope and keep our fingers crossed, there are certain things that public office holders should not be seen doing now, and one of it is trying to review the salaries at this point in time when Nigerians are still in hardship.
Anyways, to have that conversation, we don't know if we have him right now on the line to get on with that conversation, but yes, sorry? Yes. Okay, thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. Can you hear us?
Good morning.
Good
yes,
morning.
I can hear you. Good morning.
All right. To join us for this conversation today will be Mr. Kolawole, who is the Deputy Director of SERAP. Thank you so much again for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. Good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Morning.
All right. So let's begin the conversation, right? SERAP is known for always, using legal litigation, to fight against some of the things that you see and deem to be unconstitutional, especially when it concerns public office holders and the government generally. Looking at the conversation right now this morning, talking about the proposed increase salaries for public office holders, do you think, in your own point of view, that there is any unconstitutional value or things going on right now?
Thank you very much. It is very important in having conversations like this, you have asked whether it is unconstitutional, to look at the legal framework, which is not only the Constitution, but other laws, but also to look at factual circumstances. Laws do not exist on their own. They exist in a context, and they also predict a context in which they would operate. So when you look at the functions of the Revenue Mobilization and Allocation Fiscal Commission, one of its functions is what it purports to do, or what it's proposing to do now, which is to increase salaries of political office holders. But there are other functions conferred on RAMFAC, both by the Constitution and by the RAMFAC Act, including some provisions of the Constitution that guides public officers and even RAMFAC as an institution. So RAMFAC has the statutory power to increase, but that power cannot be exercised in a vacuum. It must be exercised in conformity with the provisions of the Constitution, the third schedule, that gives it that mandate, and the RAMFAC Act and other circumstances guiding the exercise of that power. Which is why one of the functions of RAMFAC is to advise government on how to maximize and use our resources efficiently. Now, can we now say in this instance that increasing the salary of political office holders amidst the economic crunch that Nigerians are facing now, would that be a good use of that discretionary power? The answer from the point of view of SERAP is no. And I think that is echoed by millions of Nigerians who live in poverty, who bears the brunt of this economic hardship daily. And coming from the president that has consistently told Nigerians to tighten their seatbelt as a way of contributing to national development, this proposed action of RAMFAC does not show the sensitivity of government to what Nigerians are going through. And there are various factual circumstances that also come into play. Most of these political office holders, if not more, starting from the president to even a local government councillor and different allowances, legitimately so, and some of course can be questioned as not being legitimate, and that includes security votes already. So what is the basis, the exercise of these RAMFAC's power now? And that is why it's going to be very difficult for RAMFAC to defend what they propose to do, not with the level of poverty and the level of hardship, which is just so appalling. And when you marry that with the level of public debt that Nigerian owes, there is just no reason. Particularly when you look at the percentage of those who are political office holders, whether they are appointed or elected, that Nigerians want to pay this huge amount of money. It is just not sustainable. And that will form part of the recurrent expenditure of our budget. What about the capital expenditure? What about the ones that we should spend on roads? What about the ones that we spend on building quality schools? What about the ones to spend on security? There are many more things that Nigeria as a country can spend money on now than the salaries of public office holders. It simply looks like a case of misplaced priority on the part of RAMFAC.
All right. Thank you very much for that contribution. Right, let's move to the very next question. Now, many Nigerians argue that political office holders already are compensated enough. And I understand where you say, oh, there's a place for adjusting the salaries, right? And we have been making mention of the fact that now is not the right time. Now is not the right time. These are two very disparate conversations. You say now is not the right time, but they are actually already compensated enough. And I'm talking about salaries, allowances, security votes, travel, and unofficial perks. Isn't this new proposal simply an attempt to legalize excess? Are we not supposed to completely throw it out rather than, put it for another time? What do you think about this?
The power of RAMFAC to increase, or I would rather use the word review. That's because review can either be an increase or it can be a decrease. The powers of RAMFAC to do that cannot be taken away. And that is why when one looks at the legal framework that guides the exercise of that power, what RAMFAC does actually is to bring forward a recommendation that subsequently becomes an act of the National Assembly. So there is still a process that doesn't allow the arbitrary use of that power by RAMFAC. So the solution will not be to take away the power of RAMFAC to review. Among other things, RAMFAC also plays a role in advising the federal government on how to allocate resources to the subnationals, the state and the local governments, and we cannot take that in. The popular advocacy, I think, would be to hold RAMFAC accountable, like Nigerians have a duty to hold everybody accountable, including the president, in how that power is exercised and is used. And that means that Nigerians are speaking out now, and we continue to speak out to ensure that RAMFAC does not go ahead. And of course, Nigerians have the right, just like SERAP does from time to time, to go to court to challenge the exercise of RAMFAC in this instance. And that is why we are not challenging it. And I think that's a popular advocacy right now. The power of RAMFAC to do this, it is why do it now, and what is the basis to do it? And that is why democracy functions by ensuring that the acts of those who are either appointed or elected in public office is supported by the popular mandate that the people want. So just because you have the statutory power to do something doesn't mean you're going to do it. And that is why public feedback will ensure that everybody in the country, including the president, acts within the ambit of the law. I'd mentioned one of the functions that RAMFAC has the other time, which is to ensure that there is a efficiency in fiscal efficiency in the use of public funds. How has RAMFAC performed that duty? Why is RAMFAC so quick to activate its mandate to review the salaries of public officers? Not that of advising governments on how to cut costs, because that is what fiscal efficiency is about, to ensure that monies are not wasted. The monies allocated to frivolous spending by a lot of by federal agencies, including the office of the president, is just too much, and it's not sustainable, particularly when we are borrowing to fund this thing. So, simply put, the solution is not to take away the power of RAMFAC to review. And that's why the review can also be downward, really. RAMFAC has that power. To cut, not an increase. So the solution is not to remove the power to review, but to ensure that the exercise of that power conforms with laws and the realities of part time.
All right. We see that SERAP has been very active in taking governments to court over issues of accountability. Now, should Nigerians expect SERAP to challenge the salary review in court?
Sure. I think it's becoming a pattern where people think SERAP loves going to court. We take on public interest advocate actions the way the name implies, because we do that in the public interest. And we are always very reluctant to do that. We only do that as the last resort. If RAMFAC does not listen to the voice of the people, and I think it's loud and clear enough, we might be compelled to go to court to challenge the exercise of that power. But I really think that RAMFAC is going to do the right thing and not go ahead with this proposal, which is perhaps why it put this out in the public as some sort of filler to hear what people would think and before doing it. I do not think RAMFAC is going to go ahead to do that. But if they do that, of course, we might be compelled to go to court. And I think every citizen has the right to do that. So don't be surprised that other people might even take the initiative and go to court to challenge the exercise of the power.
Okay.
All right. Earlier on, you said that RAMFAC was rather too quick, to even come to the review of the salaries. But again, if you look at their statement, they said that the last time it was reviewed was in 2008, right? That was when it was reviewed. And their statement or their reason for wanting to review the salaries at this point in time is because, according to them, that the salaries are inadequate, and the increasing responsibilities on the government officials, rather that the responsibilities of the government officials are also getting increased day by day. Would you say for real that the salaries that our public office holders are earning right now are really inadequate, or this is just something that should be normal at this point in time, putting vis-a-vis the current, what's the word now? The current minimum wage, rather, that Nigerian workers are earning?
I do not think the salaries of public office holders are too small. And that is why we need to look at the various, we need to unpack what political office or public office holders would mean. There are various aspects to that. Don't forget that the mandate of RAMFAC also covers public officers, including members of the judiciary, the judges. It's part of the mandate of RAMFAC, which is why I think RAMFAC should look at. And we've gone to court in that regard before RAMFAC responded, I think, late last year by increasing that of judicial officers. And that, of course, it's something that was applauded. It was welcomed. But the point has always been that for political office holders, the amount that they take home, that is why it's very important to unpack what is in remuneration or salary. Salary is a part of remuneration. What they take home is much more than what even the average Nigerians, much more in terms of benefits. We've seen findings about what the average member of the National Assembly takes home. We are not even sure what that of the president is, or what that of the governor is. So the salaries, when we talk about their salaries, we should talk about their remuneration, which will cover everything that they earn in terms of either allowances or salaries. Of course, the salaries may look small, like the one that's done by RAMFAC in 2008. But again, we need to look at the factual circumstances. What do they take home in terms of allowances? What are the other perks that amount to their office? And that is why I think the basis of this popular outcry, because it is a fact, it has come out a lot of times in the public, that political office holders earn a lot more than what is officially stated as salaries, they earn those as allowances. So it is not that the allowances are wrong in itself, it is the quantum, the quantity of such allowances. When you even marry it without the salary is negligible, you can even afford to forego that.
Okay.
And a very popular, a very important way to, one important aspect that comes to mind is that of security votes.
Okay.
The presidents, the governors, and nearly every political office holders earn what is called security votes, which amounts to billions of naira annually, which is not really backed by any law, as it were. So holding them accountable to it is a bit problematic. It started with military, and it's been sustained by democracies over the course of time. And that also forms part of what they take home, right? Because there is no legal framework that even guides out that those funds are to be spent. What about the pension that they earn when they leave office? So when we talk about their salaries, yes, the salary may look small, but there are other things, which of course we use the term remuneration, which is what also is used in the third schedule of the Constitution and even in the RAMFAC Act, which RAMFAC has control over. But RAMFAC does not have control over some of those allowances, which again brings to the fact that in exercising the power of RAMFAC is a Nigerian statutory agency. They cannot say they are not aware of the factual circumstances in Nigeria. When RAMFAC say that they do not know that the governors and the president earn security votes, that they earn other allowances that are beyond the scope of RAMFAC, of course, RAMFAC is aware of that fact. And that has come up before when RAMFAC had to issue a public statement about what RAMFAC has approved for National Assembly members, even though National Assembly members earn much more than that. And that is why it's just unconscionable. There is no way one can defend that increase, given the state of poverty in Nigeria, the state of our national economy, and the refusal of those who hold public offices to sacrifice. We can talk about lecturers, we can talk about ASU, we can talk about the NLC and the various times they've had to speak to how much they earn. When you look at the party minimum wage of 70,000, the average police officer, for instance, how much does he or she earn? In 30 years of service, what is his or her pension? Whereas the president, the vice president, governors, and the deputies in the office, by law, they still earn millions, if not billions of naira when you calculate other things like foreign trips and foreign medical trips as part of what they earn. So it's not just to look at the salary in isolation, it is to look at remuneration, whatever goes into their pockets or the benefits they have, which is quite huge.
Generally, okay. Thank you very much for that one. Now, we have seen a lot of clamoring for political offices here in Nigeria, where power is now like a do or die affair for a lot of politicians. So they'll do anything, go any lengths to ensure that they get power. And to so many Nigerians and some other analysts, it's as a result of these enticing remuneration that they get in political offices. Now, some Nigerians believe that the only way forward is to make political offices less financially attractive, so that those who are genuinely connected or committed to service will be the ones who will occupy the position, not people who are drawn to the financial gains and the remuneration that is gotten from this office. Do you agree with this line of thought?
Of course, it will not be a bad thing to make the office less attractive in terms of pay, which again speaks to the conversation we've been having about remuneration. But more importantly, it is to ensure that the legal framework, the built-in fail-safe systems that does not allow impunity or corruption to work. Because if those fail-safes do not work, it means that whether the salary is small or big, those in public offices will still find a way to get away with stealing public funds. An example that comes to mind would be the asset declaration framework, for instance. That's a very good example, such fail-safes. What the asset declaration framework does to do, seeks to do is actually to prevent and also to ensure that public officers are found out if they do such things. It would allow them to declare their assets when coming into office, and also when they're leaving the office every 4 years, as it were. But that system has not been made to work. So even if the remuneration of those who hold public office is unattractive, so to speak, it's small, there could be other ways they could still exploit the system to amass unlawful wealth. So while it would be good and ideal to cut pay, as it were, what would be important, what would be much more important to cut corruption and to ensure that people get the benefit of governance is to ensure that the fail-safes around public procurement, asset declaration, and other things work effectively. That will go a long way to ensure that whether, even if their pay is small, even if they are enticed, as it were, to steal, they are not able to steal. I think that is what we need to focus on much more. And speaking of the asset declaration framework, for instance, one of the things that has not made that framework work is maybe I would say malicious implementation of that law. What the law aims to do in the third schedule of the Constitution is to ensure that the CCB, the Code of Bureau that receives the asset declaration forms, does not only verify or retain custody of the forms, but they also make it available to members of the public. So you can see if the CCB has allowed that to work, it would mean that you and I would have access. We would have access to the asset declaration form of the president, for instance, of public officers. And public officers mean virtually anybody that works with government, whether they're elected or appointed. And that would mean that we become gatekeepers of corruption, as it were. We're able to see for ourselves whether someone is corrupt or not. But the CCB has not made that form available. And we've gone to court in that regard. The matter is at the Court of Appeal as I speak. And that mechanism has not been allowed to work. So simply put, even if we make the office unattractive by making, like they've done in other countries, particularly in Europe, it still will not solve the problem of stealing public funds if we are not able to make sure that the frameworks that would guide against corruption work effectively.
And let's look at alternatives, basically, because still there are some government officials that believe that their pay should increase. But let's even agree, or for instance, assume that after Round 5 is done with their review, the salaries are being increased. But what are the alternatives to ensure that, okay, the moment the salaries are being increased, maybe something performance-based, what are we going to hold our leaders accountable for or accountable to ensure that
exactly.
we are paying them more, but what are you doing to earn what you're earning from the coffers of Nigeria?
Especially because countries like Kenya, Ghana, and South Africa, they have open political debate about how much these politicians should earn, and the benchmark of their earnings should be based on the productivity level and the results that they've been able to produce during their time in office.
Thank you very much. Very lovely question. And that is the basis of democracy, if you ask me. Okay. That public engagement that should not end after elections. When you see the way politicians engage people pre-election, you would think that these politicians will practice the same thing while they're in office for the next 4 to 8 years, depending on whether they're elected or they're appointed. But that engagement stops. The various town halls or consultations, that they call it, at the grassroots level ends when they get into the office. And that is not the is not the intendment of democracy. Democracy is not just about going to the polls, engaging people when you're about to vote for you. It also means engaging them during your term in office, whether you are elected or appointed, carrying people along. That is the basis of why you have provisions of Section 39 of the Constitution, for instance, which speaks about freedom of expression. And freedom of expression is two-pronged. It is the right to receive and the right to also to give out information, which is what we're enjoying as we speak right now. And that is why, adjunct to that freedom of expression provision in the Constitution, the Freedom of Information Act was enacted, which allows every citizen to have access to public information, subject to minor exclusions of perhaps the issues of national security or privacy. But that law has been observed more in the breach than in compliance. And what the FOI would have done, which it does to a certain degree, is to allow the people who have access to information about how government, institutions, and those who man them have performed over time to be able to hold them to account. What you are speaking about, I believe, is about the issue of accountability. Yeah. If you went XYZ, then you must be able to deliver XYZ. But if the Freedom of Information Act has not been obeyed, then how do we get information, for instance? Let's look at the National Assembly as an example. And members from their constituencies engage those in the National Assembly, how many bills they've passed, how and when they've contributed to any debate on the floor of the National Assembly, and how have they voted, the voting pattern over the years. These are information that should be available to the public, not only to the members of their constituencies. There should be a database that allows the Nigerians to see. And there's a provision in the Constitution, by the way, that mandates the minimum amount of time a member should sit. But beyond that, you can report to the National Assembly and not contribute to any meaningful debate. And so so these things exist, as it were, maybe not necessarily in fine details, but they have not even been observed in the rudimentary way, how much more when they have made more detailed. And I think that is the aspect of democracy that we need to graduate to when we're able to hold people responsible. It's not for the government to call a media party, or what they call a media chat. That's not enough. Yeah, it's fine, but that's not enough. Okay. We should have town hall sessions, not in Abuja, by the way, and not in the state capitals. That should take place across the local government and various places. The same way the politicians went to every locality to campaign for their votes, to make promises they are not going to keep, is the way they should also be able to engage people. People should engage them about what they've done and what they've not. And people will formulate their scorecard from there to be able to rate out everyone as fair. So it's a good thing. But so it exists, but not in the fine details, and it's something we should adopt as a matter of practice. And if we need to make laws to make sure that we have some kind of performance appraisal system in place, so be it. It will be a welcome development.
All right. Let's ask this question. Now, seeing as the kind of resistance that came from this announcement that was being made by RAMFAC, talking about the review of the salaries of political office holders, and the young population of Nigerians who currently are experiencing the brunt of the economic realities that we experience here in Nigeria, do you think that this brain drain will cause civil disobedience? We'll begin to erupt things like civil disobedience in the space, because you will hear Nigerians say things like, oh, if their salaries are being increased, there's no need to work because hard work no longer pays. Right. And yes, it's going to spark up civil disobedience. Don't you think this is what, if RAMFAC goes through with the review of the salary, upward, by the way, because if it's downward, I think many Nigerians would not complain. Not at all. But if we have an upward review, and the youth who have been tolerating some of this extravagance from political office holders, don't you think it will cause civil disobedience?
Not necessarily, and maybe so. I'm not a sociologist, so it might be hard to predict the pattern of behavior. Okay. But we've also, what I've seen, and I think this is pretty obvious, is the apathy towards issues of governance, particularly from the youth. When you look at the registration data we have from 1999 up to voter performance and the voting data, it keeps going down by the day. So it shows that not the percentage of people that actually register is much more higher than those that eventually get to vote, which is why I believe that brought about the knee-jerk action that the House of Rep considered in trying to pass a mandatory voting bill, which of course has died at the National Assembly. So there is voter apathy, there is a certain apathy particularly among the youth towards governance, which it's not a good thing. But I think it's also there's some sort of resurgence of people being interested in governance. What I think we had existed, and I still exist, is that there's a lot of people who are interested in politics. But when you look at the number of people that are interested in politics against the number of people that are interested in governance, there's also a bit of disparity. More people appear to be interested in politics and less interested in governance. So the apathy exists, and I think the solution would be to drive the numbers up for those who are interested in politics to those who are interested in governance, so that that level can go up and people can engage and participate in governance. As to brain drain, brain drain is one of those negative consequences of what we've seen as a mismanagement of public funds over the years. That's an obvious fact as well. Perhaps it can escalate, I do not know. But I do hope government takes action in time to restore confidence of the people in government. By not only doing or not only being seen to do, which government likes to do from time to time, government likes to look good, but actually doing and being able to deliver what Nigeria terms the dividends of democracy. I've always had a problem with that time anyway, because I really do not see the benefit that the people want to get, really. And every Nigerian is not asking for too much. Good roads, security, the ability to live well, as it were, education, the health institutions that function. And it's not because we do not have funds. It is simply because these funds don't get to where they are meant to go. Brain drain is one of the consequences we've seen. The voter party is also a consequence. Whether it's going to lead to something more is something that may be hard to predict. But of course, it will be very hard to sustain the present system that we have of public profligacy and just entrenched corruption.
All right, Kolawole, thank you for being here with us. Lots of questions, of course, we're still going to ask you, but right now let's just go out on a quick break, and when we'll come back, we're going to continue with this conversation. Please stay with us. Don't go away, please.
My name is also.
My name is Ima Ehumadu, aka Labista.
My name is DK, aka Mama Chinedu.
Keep watching Rapid TV.
You are watching Rapid TV.
Shout out to Rapid TV.
Hey, Rapid TV, Carigo.
The biggest, the finest, the only Rapid TV.
Rapid TV.
Yes, keep watching.
Don't go nowhere. Don't touch that dial.
Keep watching Rapid TV.
This is me giving a rapid response to Rapid TV.
All right, welcome back and thanks for staying with us. It's still Rapid Done right here on Rapid TV. And yes, we have been hanging out with Mr. Kolawole Oluwadare, and we've been talking about the federal government's proposed salary increase for political office holders. Thank you so much, Mr. Kolawole, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's take a look at SERAP for a bit. SERAP is usually everywhere when we hear, criminal offenses, mismanagement of funds, asking for accountability from political office holders, which is very commendable, by the way. But what tools, active tools, has SERAP put in place, or measures has SERAP put in place to force these political office holders into accountability? Because it's one thing to be on the news about asking them or holding them accountable, public litigations, it's one thing. But what other tools has SERAP put in place to ensure that accountability ensure accountability from these political office holders?
Thank you very much. The way you said that, nearly, I thought maybe I'm working for the EFCC or the ICPC. I had to look around. No, I do not. So I think it's very important. This is a very important question. I do get this a lot, which is why I think it's important that there is a better understanding of what SERAP is and what we do. Okay. SERAP is what you call in Nigerian terms an NGO, or you can call us a civil society organizations among the many that exist in Nigeria. We're just a group of passionate people who want to use the tools of human rights to ensure that people enjoy the benefits of good governance. So strategic litigation is, or what you call public interest litigation, is just one of the tools that we use. Conversations like this, we form public and media advocacy is one of the tools that we do from time to time. We issue advisories, open letters to the president, governors, and pretty much every public officer to engage them, advising them, telling them what we think they should do, introducing other people. And all these are requests are anchored on human rights frameworks that either exist in our local legislation or Nigeria has ratified by way of treaties and conventions. So it is not things that Sarah thinks the government should do. They are things that the law mandates the Nigerian government to do. We only go to court as a last resort. And we do that because the law, Section 6 of the Constitution, by the way, empowers the judiciary to be the final arbiter, to adjudicate either between citizens or between citizens and government, and even between arms of government, which is why you've seen the states go to court against the federal government, and the federal government has gone to court against the states, which is what we do from time to time as a last resort to compel governments to act in the interest of the citizens, which you can tell as holding the government to account in terms of the laws that exist that guides the actions of government. Right. But we do other things as well. But the problem is always to ensure that government obeys the law. If we go to court and we have judgment and government does not obey the judgment, really, what would we have private citizens do? Government just sets a bad precedent for itself and it doesn't work well.
Let's look at precedent, because you're there right now as we wrap it up. What legal precedents, exist for citizens or even civil society stopping some of these, government anomalies, especially when it comes to this, what RAMFAC is about to do right now? Are there legal precedents, that exist currently? That we can look back to say this is the precedent.
So when you say president, I do not understand. Are you talking about presidents in Nigeria or other countries?
We're talking about Nigeria. We're talking about presidents in Nigeria, yeah.
I think the precedent that comes to mind will be that since 1999, I think RAMFAC, by their own admission, has done it once or twice, I can't remember, the review of salaries of public office holders, but it's still not a reason to review those salaries. And perhaps I will end by saying that Nigerians have the right to challenge the actions of RAMFAC in court, and I really do wish citizens would take it upon themselves to do this. Perhaps we would have 2 or 3 people that would beat syrup to eat if RAMFAC does not listen to the voice of reason and go to court to challenge the actions of RAMFAC. Of course, the courts will welcome such actions. I do not see any reason why the courts would not side with the people in this instance.
All right. Thank you so much again, Mr. Oluwadare, for joining us on the show today and giving your perspective on the proposed salary increase for political office holder.
Thank you very much.
All right. Hope to have you here sometime.
Live in the studio.
Live in the studio, by the way.
Of course I will. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much
for your time.
All right. We're closing out. He said something about citizens beating Serap to taking RAMFAC to court. And the thing is, many of us don't understand that we are in a position where we can do this private litigation, where we can take some of these organizations like RAMFAC to court if they refuse to beat down on their proposition of increasing the salaries of political office holders. However, we will be here to report how it pans out. And the most important thing is that they understand the claims, they understand the times. Because for a person who has numerous benefits, numerous allocations aside from their salaries, salaries should not be what they're talking about. We have had instances of certain African countries cutting down the remuneration of their political officers or members of the House just so that they can reach out to the citizens or let the citizens understand that we feel your pain, we understand where you're coming from. So it's very unfortunate that such a thing will be proposed at this time when Nigerians are experiencing excruciating pain from the economic realities of the country.
Very true. And I think it's insensitive of RAMFAC, to even make the statement that they made, saying that the salaries are inadequate at this point in time, and the federal government could basically say right now that we're not the ones asking for the salary increase. They will say RAMFAC, which is the the commission responsible for the review. They are the ones coming out to say that it is long overdue. The last time it was reviewed was 2008, and they think that it is time now to review the salaries.
Do you genuinely think that they think, or it was whispered in the ears of somebody?
That's why I said.
Because if they are the ones who think, then they probably are very oblivious of the current realities.
Funny thing, a lot of persons in this public office, domain are kind of oblivious of the things going on in our country.
And they are supposed to know.
They are supposed to know.
Ignorance is not an excuse at this point.
When we talk about being oblivious, they know that these things are happening, rather, but they've chosen not to pay attention to this, right? They are looking at, okay, what could come out of this particular review that we want to do? The moment RANFAC sits now to do this review, I'm sure there are a thing or two that comes in.
Of course.
Exactly, that comes. Of course. So you look at all of the whole thing, and that's why I asked the question, right? The minimum wage is still at 70,000 naira. When the president resumed office, the first thing he said was subsidy is gone. The moment he made that statement, it seemed like the toughness, in Nigeria began immediately that statement was made.
He hit the ground running, literally.
Exactly what happened, right? So what it meant was that Nigerians began to feel that pain, and then the talks for minimum wage came on board, which took some time before the 70,000 naira.
Some states have still not implemented.
You get that point, and this is not even for. This is even more for public servants, civil servants. How about private sectors, right? Because we all go down to the same market. We buy the bag of rice for over 80,000 naira together, right? Onions, the little things in the market are still very much expensive, right? So if RANFAC is saying that it is inadequate what the public government officials are earning right now, is it adequate what the civil servants are earning? Is it adequate what the everyday Nigerians are earning?
You would see someone, and I personally wonder about the Civil Service Commission many times because these people will work for 35 years of their lives. Some of them have not exceeded 100,000 or 150,000
monthly salary,
or 200,000 naira monthly salary.
Right.
And then these people die. They add the sum of money, 3 million naira, that they had never handled when they were alive in bulk and give it to the family. Although we still have inadequacies in that system because some of the monies of people who had worked in the Civil Service Commission and had died are still not being given to them up to date. Some of them keep going to the banks, keep going to local government offices or state state offices to demand for these payments to be made, and they are still not made.
And they might never get it.
They might never get it.
That's the sad part of this whole thing.
The funny thing is, one time I was speaking with someone who, the mother worked in one of these government parastatals, right? And she's been dead for 20 years. Wow. Until date, they still haven't gotten the monies that have been allocated to her.
2 decades.
2 decades. They still haven't, 20 or 12 years. Anyways, but the monies have still not been given to them till date. For someone who spent many years of their life working in the Civil Service Commission. So if we're talking about things that are not realistic and things that are not fair, I don't think this should be coming from the quarters of political office holders or should be said in favor of political office holders.
Not at all.
Because aside their primary remuneration, they have other votes and security votes and other resources that have been allocated to them, allowances that have been allocated to them, because they occupy certain positions. And when we ask our guest the question, talking about whether or not we should not make these political offices very attractive because it's looking like everyone who comes into the office comes with a mindset of eating their national cake.
That's what it is.
So everyone comes, demands increase where is beneficial to them, demands reforms or change of policies where it is beneficial to them. Eat what they can eat, leave the office. A newer person come, upscales those policies, upscale those demands, and get. So it's a very, very unfortunate situation we find ourselves, especially when it comes to the quarters of these political office holders.
And that's where we also need to hold RANFAC accountable.
Absolutely.
Right? Because like it or not, the review should also come from the place of accountability, right? And when the public offices are this attractive, and there are loopholes for looting, right? There are arguments, by those who actually support what RANFAC is about to do or the review that they are proposing. And one of those arguments is that the moment public office holders are well paid, that looting, corruption is going to reduce. And the truth is this. Let's take away their salary a little bit. I mentioned earlier on that, and it's debatable, but again, it's on the news, right? That Nigerian senators are one of the most paid senators in the world, right? That is not, now if you're saying that they earn less than 1 million naira, how did they get to that point where they are the most paid?
That means EFCC should even investigate a lot of them.
Thank you.
You know why? Because they acquire properties, they travel around the world. You know, most of them, their families don't even reside here in Nigeria. And even if they do, they live in the best condition ever.
Right.
So if your salaries are inadequate, now explain to
your lifestyle.
Explain your lifestyle,
you know,
to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission.
You know,
explain it, because imagine that a person who is earning 200,000 naira on a monthly basis, the person is driving a GLK, the person is living in an apartment, an SUV. The person is living in an apartment that is not commensurate to the amount of money.
Right.
You see, these people are being questioned from time to time about fraud. Houses of these people are being broken into, you know, because EFCC thinks they are not living up to or based on the amount of money that they claim that they are earning. So you see, you say if you live in glass, those who live in glass houses must not throw stones.
Right.
So I think the reason we have a lot of these security problems, irregularity, fraud, is because these people cannot be held accountable. So they don't want to hold other people accountable.
And that's what the problem is.
Exactly.
You know, accountability, which is the foundation of every good government.
Exactly.
Good government.
Exactly.
Is not even being placed at the top burner. Again, I think at this point in time, looking at the empathetic nature of the whole situation, Nigerians are saying, let the government be empathetic. You know, they're not saying that your salary should not be reviewed or increased, whatever, but not at this point in time.
It should not. I say it should not. It should not. Why are you reviewing it?
They have the legal backing.
They have the legal backings, but what is the justification for the upward review?
And that's the again, that's the question we asked them. But the point we're trying to make exactly is that this is not the time for any commission, you know, to bring up this conversation, right? If things are working out the way they should work in Nigeria, then come talk to Nigerians, or even bring these reviews, and Nigerians will say, okay, yeah, no wahala, or Nigerians will not even pay too much heed to it because they see that the government is working.
Absolutely.
They see the dividends of what the government is doing. But how many young Nigerians? I may both to say young because Nigeria has more population of young people.
Absolutely.
How many young Nigerians are enjoying what this present administration is doing at this point in time? The truth is not many. On daily basis, young Nigerians are leaving the country because they're looking out for greener pastures. If things are working out so well for us here, Nigerians will want to stay back. A country like Kigali, just our neighboring country.
Yeah.
We have Nigerians leaving Nigeria to Kigali.
Yes. Rwanda,
yeah. Of course. Rwanda, that's where Kigali is.
Kigali,
you know,
yes.
And the reason they're going down there is because Rwanda, you know, have come to understand that these young people can actually contribute to the thriving economy of the nation through technology. And I have a few of my friends currently in Kigali, thriving in the tech space in Kigali. In as much as we're having maybe one or two acceptance here in Nigeria when it comes to technology, but it cannot be compared to what we have in Kigali as a giant of Africa, you know, which is Nigeria. So I think there's a lot of things that we need to do or pay attention to in our nation than talking about the upward review of salaries for
with over 133 million of Nigerians classified as multidimensionally poor. That means in every way you are talking about upward review.
Nigerians cannot afford the, I mean, see, Martha, the cost of toothpaste, as simple as basic as toothpaste is, many Nigerians cannot afford it.
The most basic one goes for like as much as 2,500 naira.
You get that point.
So and your minimum wage is 70,000 naira. How many percent of your salary have you used to buy toothpaste? Anyways, these are the harsh realities, or these are the current realities we experience in our country, Nigeria. We're hoping that RANFAC draws this matter or kicks this matter out of their deliberation table and focus on other important things like upscaling the standard of living of the Nigerian people. Thank you so much for being here with us. Absolutely enjoyed the fact that you are right at the other end, you know, keeping tabs of everything that is happening right here on Rapid on Rapid TV. Remember, we are active across social media platforms on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, which is now X, and on TikTok at Rapid TV. On YouTube, it is at official Rapid TV. And then on the website where you can watch us every single time, www.rbnradiotv.com. My name is Martha Alo. See you tomorrow.
And I'm Victor Arke. See you tomorrow.
My name is also.
My name is Ima Ehumadu, aka Labista.
My name is DK, aka Mama Chinedu.
Keep watching Rapid TV.
You are watching Rapid TV.
Shout out to Rapid TV.
Hey, Rapid TV, Carigo.
The biggest, the finest, the only Rapid TV.
Rapid TV.
Yes, keep watching.
Don't go nowhere. Don't touch that dial.
Keep watching Rapid TV.
This is me giving a rapid response to Rapid TV.
Hello viewers at home, this is the Almighty and I'm here at the Masterminds Maiden Edition and our audition today. This is the platform where we give young mind kids from the ages of 7 to 17 the platform to express their feeling and to showcase their talent.
My name is Uzo Emanuela.
Sadiq Labron Abu.
Jessica Prince. My name is Hollywood Dia.
Sarah Andrea Achalaga. My name is Goldie Aisha.
Special Sotum. I'm Taila. I am Paris Aban.
Just not you.
Let's go.
This was amazing.
It was splendid. Mastermind.
Meet the men and women shaping the future of Nigeria. Get to know your representatives at the National Assembly. From lawmaking to constituency projects, we'll take you behind the scenes and inside the chambers of the Nigerian National Assembly. Learn about the bills they are championing, the challenges they are facing, and the impact they are making in their constituencies. We'll also bring you closer to the people they are serving and the stories that shape their work. Join us on NAS Watch every Friday on Rapid Television at 7 p.m. So get informed, get engaged, and get to know the leaders shaping Nigeria's future.
Nigeria's economy, the global markets, what does it all mean for you? From stock market insights to global financial news you need to know. From Wall Street to the Main Street and of course, the marketplace.
Get the answers you need every week on Business Lens with me, Faith Daffer Joseph, as I bring into focus the stories, strategies, and shifts shaping our economy. No angle is missed as I talk about the business, the people, patterns, and possibilities behind them. Welcome to the Business Lens.
Rapid TV, rooted in truth, driven by impact. This is Rapid Broadcasting Network, RBN. We connect people, power stories, and amplify voices. On Rapid TV, we're rooted in culture and your window to the stories that matter. From news to lifestyle, we inform, entertain, and uplift. Join Rapid TV on StarTimes Channel 176, Nigecom Sat. On Rapid FM, we speak your language from the soulful airwaves of Umuahia to the vibrant culture of Port Harcourt and beyond. More than broadcasters, we're creators, amplifying that voice within with powerful content across TV, radio, and digital. Join us at rbnradiotv.com and all our social media handles. One network, one voice. Rapid Broadcasting Network, RBN, the sound of your city. Rooted in truth, driven by impact.
From the heart of Africa, where dreams are born and passion is boundless, a new wave of talent rises. In La Liga, these extraordinary athletes are not just playing the game, they're transforming it.
Danny Rodriguez, the man chasing, it's Lamine Yamal! What a magnificent goal that is!
They shine on the world stage. Watch as they redefine football, inspire millions, and make history. La Liga, where dreams become reality.
In 1929, a wave of resistance swept through the streets of southeastern Nigeria, led not by warriors or soldiers, but by women. It began in the colonial town of Aba. Thousands of Igbo women, market traders, mothers, daughters, rose in defiance against British colonial officers. The cause? A rumored plan to impose direct taxation on women, a foreign, unjust idea that deeply violated traditional norms. These women, mobilized with brilliance, they sang, danced, and staged sit-ins. They used an ancient method called sitting on a man, a peaceful but powerful form of protest that used ridicule and solidarity to shame oppressive leaders. The British caught off guard responded with brutal force in what became one of Nigeria's darkest colonial chapters. Soldiers opened fire on unarmed women. Over 50 were killed, hundreds injured. But the Aba Women's Riot, often called the Women's War, was not in vain. It